Amid hectic lobbying, the cabinet yesterday gave its approval for a partial abolition of the 520 rule, which will enable new carriers like Vistara and Air Asia to start international operations sooner. The cabinet, which cleared the civil aviation policy today, replaced the 5/20 rule with the 0/20 rule. So essentially, you don't need 5 aircraft to implement that. The government has decided to scrap a requirement that mandated airlines to have 5 years of domestic operations to be eligible to fly overseas. Air Asia, which can now ramp up its fleet strength to 20 in order to fly overseas, lauded the move. The airline CEO Tony Fernandes joins us via Skype, and I'm also joined by Ronojoy Banerjee with that interview. Ron, over to you.
Well, thanks very much for that. Mr. Fernandes, always a pleasure to have you right here on CNBC TV 18. Let's get your reaction first on the 5/20 rule, because that clearly has been the most contentious issues over which you've also locked horns with the incumbents. Are you satisfied with the modification of the 5/20 rule, sir?
Well, I mean, India is the only country which has a rule like this. But look, we'll take whatever we can get. I'm pretty happy with it. At least we know we have some clarity that if we get to 20 planes, we can do international. Preferably, I would have liked 0, but we'll take whatever we can get. It's a step forward.
You're being very diplomatic there, Mr. Fernandes, but let's just speak a little bit about Air Asia and how this might impact you, because I think you have about 7 to 8 aircrafts right now. So how long will it take for you to ramp up to a fleet strength of 20, which will then make you eligible to fly overseas?
Well, we have 6 at the moment, actually. We're going to try and ramp up to 10 by the end of the year, and we'll try and put in another 10 during the year, next year. So maybe another 18 months.
Mr. Fernandes, you're known as one of those few CEOs, who speak their mind. So we really want your honest opinion on this. Do you feel that somewhere there was pressure from the incumbents or the FIA, which perhaps forced the government not to completely dispense with the 5/20 rule, only to modify it? Do you feel, sir, there was some pressure from the incumbents?
Yeah, I think without a doubt. I mean, the government is smart. The government knows that this is the only country in the world that has this rule. But I suppose they succumb to a little bit of pressure from the incumbents. But, fair credit to them. There must have been a lot of pressure on them, but at least they changed it. The easy option would have been to do nothing. So, I give credit where credit is due. The Prime Minister said he was going to change it. I'm sure he would have liked to have scrapped it completely, but I suppose there was a lot of pressure from the existing airlines here.
Well, I did pose that question, in a certain way to the minister yesterday as to why did he try to make everyone happy. But then moving away from that, since you're actually categorically saying that there was pressure from the incumbents, finally then, Mr. Fernandes, yesterday the government indicated that the headroom for growth could be as high as 60-70% from 20-22% currently. How realistic is that target, and what are the challenges facing the aviation sector today? Because regulating airfare, that is something the government indicated, at least in the times of calamities, clearly seems to be one of the issues that you've also talked about. Tell us more, sir.
I mean, I think you just mentioned one. The government should stay out of trying to regulate too much. 1. 2, the fuel taxes are still prohibitive. And 3, if India really is to be an aviation hub, don't have open skies, have open markets, let the best man win. India is really, the jobs that can be created are huge if this is an open aviation market.
Well, thank you very much for that, Tony Fernandes. Well, there you have it, Arif. He's somebody who's always spoken his mind and making it very, very clear that incumbent pressure forced the government not to completely do away with the 5/20 rule, only to modify it. So there you have it, straight from Tony Fernandes.
Right, and thanks, Ron, for joining us with all those details. But